Welcome. I'm Pam Laricchia from livingjoyfully.ca, and today I'm here with Shannon Loucks. Hi, Shannon. Hi. So Shannon's been on the podcast before, way back in episode 63 it was. And I will link to that in the show notes so you can listen and hear more details about her family's unschooling journey. But recently, Shannon released a book titled Love More, and I really wanted to chat with her about it, so I invited her back. But before we dive into that, as just a quick refresher, can you share with us a bit about you and your family and how long you guys have been unschooling?
Okay, I have two boys, one who just turned 17 and one who will be 15 in August, and they've never gone to school. We are originally from British Columbia, Canada, but we now live in California, which we have shockingly for 9 years now. Wow. My children have spent more time living in America than Canada. But yeah, we started out, my husband wasn't a big fan of school, and I was a teacher. And when we started out with the boys, it never made sense for me to send them to go learn from somebody else while I went to teach strangers' children, right? And so we were able to just, from the get-go, figure out how to live on one salary and then just follow the boys' natural progression through attachment parenting onto this unschooling journey that has brought us to this point.
That's awesome. That was a very nice synopsis. And wow, you guys have been out of Canada for a long time.
So long. But we get back regularly, so that's good.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so as I mentioned, my imprint, Forever Curious Press, recently published your book, Love More, 50 plus ways to build joy into childhood. And I love the book, which is why I chose to publish it. And I would love to hear the story behind your choice to write it. I'm curious how that originally came about for you.
Well, writing has always been a really great way for me to understand myself better. So when the boys were young and we were, starting out on the journey, I would come up across, whether it was something I was struggling with or an aha moment I had, I would write about it. And so, over the years, the blog posts, they pile up, and I thought, how can I make this into a book? I thought it would be a neat idea to have it as a book to share with other people or even just to have on my own shelf. And as I started to go through the book, I started to notice, a couple of themes. And there's this author I love, Patty Dye, and she always says, write the book you wish you'd had. And so starting out as a parent with this sort of like wide open idea, there wasn't the book I wanted necessarily.
Yeah.
Right. There were some books that would tell me what to do to my children or how to train my children but that just didn't connect with who I was. And so as I looked at the blog posts and as I thought about what book would I have wanted, I would have wanted a book that I could open it at any page and learn something that I could use right away. And so that helped me to decide what the format of the book would look like, right? Is like, okay, open it up and pick a page and read that and go, oh, I can do that. I can do that. And so that sort of drove the direction, was taking this big bunch of content that was about how we were living together and how we were figuring stuff out, and then put the layer of this format of simplicity in ease together. And out of that and some years and some sweat came this piece of work.
Wow. Yeah. That is a piece that I loved when I read it as well. It was that piece that was missing when I was starting, right? Because I knew from the other books, from all the other stuff around me, I knew the stuff that I didn't want to do. Right. But what I needed to discover was, well, what am I going to do instead? What am I going to do instead? How am I going to approach this moment Instead, that's the piece that was missing, because I didn't get that from, my family. I didn't get that from extended family, neighbor. Like, it just wasn't the way that people were interacting. So I didn't have any examples. So, I mean, even now I love, as we were editing, I was going through the book so many times, there were just still so many fun ideas. It was just a nice, like you said, you could go to any page. It was just a nice little mindset shift that would help me get that.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, when I was working on it at a friend's house and the dad was there, and he said to me, I would never read a book on parenting because it takes too long and I don't have time. He's like, but I'd pick this up. And so I was like, okay, I'm on to something. Like, if because especially parents of young children, they're busy. Your life is full. And so you don't necessarily have the time to go through the thick texts or even the time to learn a new thing. You know what I mean? Like, we just need simple. And so that's what I hope to put forward, was easy to implement ideas for people.
And I think the other thing I love was, like you said, they're really digestible, short little chunks, right? And they give you something you can do in the moment. But it's the culmination of doing those things and making that little shift each time that without even, pages and pages of explanation, you get what's different, right? Just by, okay, well, I'll try that. Oh, I can see how that helped. I can see how that helped us stay connected, a different way of looking at this, and all those little things, without being overly wordy, help you understand how they're connected just by doing them, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that that's it, is that the idea of parenting has been marketed to us as this hard, complex thing, even in language, right? Yeah. Complicated thing. And so when you can strip it back to just these simple acts of connecting with your kids in a fun and joyful way, then your whole parenting, sort of like you're saying, over time, it's doing this like little shift to align more clearly, for me anyways, it was aligning more clearly with what my intention was as a mom.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to put it. Okay, so let's dive into a couple ideas in the book. Now, it's divided into 2 sections, so I thought we would tackle one from each. And the first section is love and action. And the one I picked out was smell the roses. Okay, like, how we were talking about how it seems deceptively simple, right? Something we've heard a million times before: stop and smell the roses. But if we do it with that intention, it really can make a profound difference, I think, in our child's life and in our own, just what we were saying. So I was hoping you could share your thoughts around that one in particular.
Definitely. I feel like my kids have been the best example of how to do that for me. They've been my greatest teachers. I remember when my oldest he wasn't even 2 yet, and I was pregnant with my second son, and I had my agenda, right? I'm being a good mom. We're going to head out to the park today. We're going to experience nature. Like, I had this whole agenda, and he's sitting on the floor playing happily naked beside me. And I've got the clothes. And it's about time number 10 where I'm like, hey, buddy, let's get dressed and go to the park. And, he's happy. And I keep interrupting his happiness to go be happy in my brain, right? And he looks up and he goes, no, thanks, mama. And it was there when I started to have that sort of slowing down reminder. And of course, not every day can we stay home naked with our children playing, right? There are places we need to go and things we need to get done. But when we bring that same slowing down idea, then the lens that we're looking at things with is curiosity and wonder. So it takes just as much time to stop and smell every rose as it does to hurry your child along past every rose, right?
Right. Yeah.
However, when you're able to slow it down, then I'm noticing the roses, right? And I'm also starting to use that sense of wonder to help move my child along. What do you think's around the next corner, buddy? Instead of, we're going to be late, hurry up. we're going to be late, hurry up is not something a young child understands, but let's go investigate what's behind the next corner is. And so then you both go there with this sense of joy and wonder and paying a whole different level of attention to the world. And you're not getting that tension between the two of you. And you get there, you still get there. It's just when you arrive, whether it's at the grocery store or the doctor's appointment, you arrive a little happier, a little lighter, instead of, using that tension to get you there. Hurry up, rush, let's go. So I think that stopping all the roses really helps to showcase how we can still get where we need to go by slowing down. It doesn't have to go there quickly, right?
Oh, exactly. It's hard to wrap your mind around at first, right? That slowing down, staying more connected, being more in the moment can actually be so helpful in getting to the place that in the back of your mind, you're trying to go. Oh, I mean, I remember so many times the tenseness of, trying to get the kids in the car and get them in their car seat. And, we got to get in, and looking at my watch all the time, and we got to get here and we got to get here. And then after we, began unschooling and I started, hearing about these kind of mindset shifts and trying to be, it's like, okay, I'll try it. Right. And just shifting those moments, right? So that I'm with them and we're having conversations and we're talking about, we're noticing the things around us. We're talking about where we're going, and engaging with them as people rather than trying to push them to my agenda. And we still got places. It was the biggest revelation, right? The world didn't end. People weren't mad at us, and along with that is questioning the places that you're trying to take them. Like you said, right? He was sitting there playing and that was good. That was fine for today. Questioning all the places I was trying to drag them and what my agenda was and seeing them when you slow down to be with them and seeing what they notice, like the smell the roses piece, the flowers, stopping for all the flowers. It's okay. Right.
Yeah. And I think it shifts the importance, right? To your relationship, right? So, okay, so we're 5 minutes late to the doctor, but we're still intact over here. And we saw some roses, we saw the bee fly by, and whereas I could also rush them and the doctor would be happy that I wasn't late. So I had to ask myself, who am I trying to be connected with? Who am I wanting to please isn't the right word, but who does this matter to, right? It matters to us how we get there and what we see along the way, much more than it matters to, I can't even think of a single appointment that would hold more value than connection with my child.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because so often we, because we want to be a good person. We want to, we said we'd show up there at 3, and I mean, it does depend. And if it's really important that you're there by 3 for something, aim for 2:30.
Exactly.
Give yourself all that extra time. Maybe, I think there's been times when if we would just go really close to something and be there a half a day. We go there in the morning, hang out, find something else to do that's really close by, having fun. There's just so many other ways to meet these parameters that we want to meet, but questioning them to start with, right? Because is it really that necessary? Is it worth the challenge to our relationship, right? If I put something else above it, they can all, that's the other big thing, right? They can all be together. Things don't have to be above one another, right? My kids can be as important as us getting to whatever it is, right? Or dinner was a big one for me in that shift, right? It was, because I'll never forget. We were outside, swimming, and my daughter had decided she wanted to dive. she wanted to master diving, right? And for the first, that was great, but she kept going. She just kept getting out and trying again and trying again and trying again. And it's like half an hour goes by and she's still going. And I'm starting to say, okay, a couple more, and then we're gonna go in and I'm gonna make dinner, a couple more. And
Right.
that was going on and on and on. And I was really happy in the end that I realized how important this was to her. For whatever reason, it didn't matter. I didn't need to know the reason. I could just tell that she wasn't wanting to make that transition, right?
Right.
And me realizing that, you know what, it's okay if dinner's a half an hour later, an hour later. The boys are happily occupied doing what they're doing. I can explain to Rocco when he gets home that Lissy was really into what she was doing, and me just staying out there and being with her was in the end way more valuable than, that dinner time that I thought.
And she'll remember you being there to witness her learning how to dive. She couldn't tell you what you had for dinner
that night, right? and I still remember it because it was this amazing, amazing moment. And it was another hour. And by the end of it, she was thrilled with how her diving was going. So yeah, it was amazing to notice and just to take that time to question yourself. Hey, what if we didn't do that? What would happen?
Right. Right. And it is that questioning, right? And it's also, we live in a rushed world. So it ties into that slowing down. When you slow down, you have a minute to question. But when you're running on that sort of hamster wheel, you're just reacting to, we have to have dinner, we have to go, and you're not. So I feel like the slowing down piece really creates space for those questions to arise in us.
Yeah. And just to mention again, what you talked about, how it opens up curiosity and wonder. And it does that. I love that. That's the big mindset shift when you can just slow down. And for me, like smelling the roses is being in the moment. It's noticing the roses. It's stopping to smell them. And the shift now, all of a sudden, it opens up. I would literally feel more open to noticing. That's that curiosity and the wonder. It's just like you can feel the weight, just like, oh, okay, we won't rush. We're going to stop. And literally just falling off your back. And now all of a sudden you can see all the things that are around, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the second section is called Love and Presence. And to me, the distinction between those two sections feels kind of like things we do and ways to be. Like I thought that worked out so well. So love and action are the kinds of things we can do to show that love. And then love and presence is ways to be with them, to again show that love. So from this section, I wanted to talk about the idea of see the child, not the behavior. Now, as you mentioned in the book, and everybody knows this is so much easier said than done. Like, what an easy phrase to say, right? See the child, not the behavior. And you can understand why. But that is not an easy thing to do in the moment, even though it's such a valuable shift, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's a practice for sure. Yeah. And I know I have my firstborn son had big reactions to things when he was smaller. And all I could see was the behavior in the beginning, because whether I was embarrassed about what other people were thinking about me, whether I was triggered by my own idea of what he should be doing, how he should be reacting. And in all of that, what I'm bringing towards him is, you need to change the behavior. You need to change it. You need to change. This needs to change. You need to change the behavior. When I could step back and see him, I could see I could start to understand what the need was, and I could meet him. And the same with my, either one of them, I could meet them there. And that to me opens my heart and is an opportunity for compassion when I can see him and wonder what's going on for him right now. can I help him say, hey, dude, do you think you need some water? Or even just sit on the ground in the middle of it. When we can let go of the part of us that's worried about what everybody else thinks about what is going on, and just sit with our child in whatever the behavior is, there's an opportunity, I just keep saying, for compassion to grow, and for either the moment to pass or a solution to arise. Like for me, one of those two things would come out of that. But when I was trying to pull him out of like I would pull him out of the behavior or get him out of the store, it just made it bigger, right? Because he wasn't feeling seen, he wasn't feeling heard. And so everything just got bigger and harder because I was trying to change a behavior. I was not connecting with a child in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that word compassion, because that really is where you can meet them. It's not about, it's getting into their head's not really the right word, but it's really seeing it through their eyes, right? Mm-hmm. Not like if I was them in that moment. Right. That is such a valuable, it was a huge shift for me, but it was hard to understand at first. It's like, okay, well, if I, wasn't able to get that toy, or they didn't have whatever, and I was upset about it, but blah, blah, blah. And I would be reacting from putting myself in their shoes. But that wasn't working well. It wasn't working because I was still seeing the behavior in that I was imagining myself in that position saying, well, how would I behave? Right. So I was still comparing behaviors. Right. And even my suggestions were things that would have soothed me.
Right. And that's it. Right. Like for me, I wanted to remember the moment I met them. Right. And was just like, oh, that's who I want to see. Like this person who I wanted to love unconditionally and help with whatever they needed. And so that's who's in front of me right now. And then it's like, and what I know about them is, oh, he's got those new shoes on today. I wonder if his shoes are bugging him. We can, try and so then it is not about me, like you're saying, it's about what I know about them from past experience. Right. And I can bring that forward, and it's in bringing that forward, then the two of us sometimes can meet in a solution place, or at least in a shared compassion. And I love now that I have older children, I see them use that, with themselves and with their friends.
Yes.
Right? They don't slip into this place of needing to change anybody, but they are able to come up with solutions or even ideas about what could have been going on for someone, that are always so surprising to me, because it's normal for them to meet somebody in whatever space they're in and help them there.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that too with older kids as well, because that's something that I found. And you know what? When things come up, even for me, I love to talk to them about it, because they will so often bring a perspective to it that I have missed, or like I've kind of gotten to this point, and they're like, they always bring me down.
Yeah,
because they can see situations, they can see people, that compassion you talk about that they bring, even for themselves, like situations where, again, if I was in that situation, I would have been much more upset, frustrated, whatever. And this is happening to them, and we're talking about it, and they're telling me about, well, what the other people involved probably thought, or, why they probably reacted this way, or, what they can say to them next time. so often in awe of that ability, like always kind of us, like you said earlier on, right? Learning from our kids, always, it doesn't stop. We learn when they're younger, and we learn no matter their age as they get older, right? There's always more to learn, isn't there?
There is. And I think too, that there's that space. Obviously, the older they get, the behaviors feel bigger, and they feel like they have more dramatic consequences.
Yeah.
But again, if I can just see them and not the behavior, then there's room for that conversation instead of me wanting to police it, whatever those behaviors are or those opinions are. It's not, I don't want to alter the behavior. I want to see my child and help them and sometimes that help for me is asking for more understanding so that I can understand the choice. Right. And so because I'm looking at them and not the behavior, then I guess for me, it's always like, it's not about me. Right. Like you were saying earlier, I'm able to, nobody's doing anything to me. My child is having a reaction to something. And so when I can drop that, I imagine it dropping on the floor behind me, and we're ready to have a conversation or a solution session or a hug or like whatever is needed in that moment. Because I can see them and I can, let the rest of it just fall to the side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love that. Because so often, in the end, when I, thought about it, so often what I was missing was more information, like you were saying.
Yes.
Right? They had compassion for me in not yet understanding what was going on, because, I'm still at that place where, well, this is what I would do. You know what I mean? But I know this is not what they're choosing, and there's that trust piece, right? And understanding the trust in the relationship that we've developed over the years as things get bigger, right? As they get older, there's bigger consequences. There's just bigger things going on, right? Yeah. And my trust in that, we've done this many, many times. We've worked through things. It might not happen in the moment, especially if that moment becomes charged for anyone, for any reason, right? When things are charged, it's hard to think and to be open and to wonder and be curious. But those are the things that still help me. It's like, I remember the first time Lizzie said, when she was 17, I want to move to New York City. Like, what? And I want to do it soon. But through conversations, I would learn more information. Like normally, if I couldn't see why they were making that choice, it was just information I was missing.
Right.
Whether it was something they wanted to accomplish, something that they saw that I hadn't yet seen yet. It was always more information. And so rather than directing, trusting instead, and then just having conversations, paying more attention for more clues, right? All those things would build me a bigger picture to understand the whatever it was through their eyes rather than mine, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And which is exactly it. See the child and their choices, their aspirations, all the things they want to do, not the behavior, not that choice in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so much more behind it that maybe we just don't know.
So much more. And I remember my favorite story is my child at 7 years old standing up and swearing in the middle of his birthday party to get everyone out of his house using a more colorful language than that. And just, like that moment of being horrified of you're rude, you're angry, like these are the words that first came up. But since that day, he's never had another birthday party. He hated them. Right. But so when I could, get down to the level, he didn't like the attention. He didn't like the pressure. He didn't want all these people asking him stuff. Like he loved gatherings, but when it was about him and his birthday, that was the worst idea ever. Right? And So I could have had this, story about him that said he was rude. That's it. He was just uncomfortable. And so, well, let's not have a birthday party in the future, and let's pretend we're just hanging out with our friends now. Right. So this, a solution that, I never would have thought of, came out of that space of seeing him. Right. It was like, oh, let's just change it up right now. No, put away the cake. We'll eat it tonight, whenever you're hungry, go get a piece of cake. Right. Like, we can remove the obstacles that are there for you right now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is such a great example.
Yeah.
Because there are so many things that we just do automatically, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then once we, it really just a big mindset shift when you start to question some things, then it's like, it's okay to question all the things. Why is a birthday, if the child isn't interested in it,
yes,
what is it for?
Yeah.
We're doing it, so that the parents can come over, the grandparents get this. It's just expected. Right.
Yes.
But there are other ways to meet that too. It's like, okay, one grandparent, the in-laws come over on one day, and another time, you can find so many different ways through.
So many solutions.
Okay, so your book is full of inspiration and ideas about how to bring more fun, more love, and more joy into your days, your family's days. So I was curious why that aspect of parenting feels important to you, so important that you chose to write a book about it. Like you said, this was something that you felt you wish you had. So, is that the kind of the reason behind it, why this felt important to you? Or is it, for me, I was wondering, is it because of the relationships? What is it about this aspect of parenting that is so meaningful for you?
I think from early on, I learned that my children were going to need a different kind of mom than I'd ever seen before. And society, I think, or my experience in the world had taught me that parenting was going to be my job. It was going to be something that I had to do. Yeah. And it was going to be hard, and it was going to be long hours. We have a lot of negative language around it.
Yeah.
And for me, parenting has become and started to become who I was. And so when I could look at that when I laid that filter of like who I was across it, then the words that come out are kind, compassionate, curious, thoughtful, loving. And so when you've got, that body of words, then it fundamentally for me changed how I was going to be a parent in the world. And it feels important for me to put that out as another option for people, for someone maybe who is wondering, oh, this doesn't fit. Because for me, a lot of it with my kids was like, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit to put him in a crib. Okay, I guess we're going to put him in the bed. And then tomorrow night we're going to try over here. And then we're going to, so from early on, I had to bring that more curious energy to it. And I also think the idea of joy isn't a word we attach to parenting a lot.
Yeah.
Right? It is joyful, right? It's a lot of other things. But if we're coming from this place of how I'm going to decide as for me, I was the primary parent. I'm going to decide as the primary parent that I'm going to find ways to put more of this in, because life, it's going to bring all the other stuff. You don't even, it's going to bring heartbreak. It's going to be unexpected moves. It's going to bring, job loss. All of those things, life's just going to throw that in the middle. So if I can just sort of be the counterbalance of that, if I can be the one that is going to bring in the bubbles in the middle of the grocery store, the one who's going to put the heart in the middle of the sandwich, if I can be that person, then we will build more of those joyful moments. And in that place, it just feels like the love grows there. It just feels like that's where love grows. That's why I wanted to put it together and put it out in the world. So maybe one person picks it up and gets steered in a different direction. Or not steered in a different direction, steered in the direction they knew they wanted to go in.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Right. Because as I was talking about before, it's like I knew all these things I didn't want to do that didn't feel right to me, but I didn't know, what else there was. Right. It was really, this was just it. Like I kept resisting. but yeah, it was discovering for myself. And I'm happy with how I got there, but yeah, this would have really helped me along the way. And I loved your point about bringing more love in, because when people will say, oh, those are just silly little things to do. Yeah. We play more play, more fun, life's tough, but it really is. It's amazing. We've been talking about how fundamentally these shift, these actions, but you get to the intention behind it, right? And you create an environment and an atmosphere within the family that fundamentally changes things, right? So even when things seem frivolous in the moment, they really, really aren't. Because and bring that connection.
It is. Exactly. It's that connection and almost that layer of healing you're bringing in, right? Like we're going to have, like I think about it now, we have to do hard things. So we have to go to grandma's internment. Okay. Well, what are the things we're going to do on sandwich sides of that are going to remind us of the love that keeps us all together? And it is almost then we come into each situation from that place of love. Instead of coming into that situation from that place of dread or heaviness, but we're going to come into it from love. And I feel like it does help to change how you handle hard things. Like we often say, like together we can do so many hard things. And I think it is that solid layer of love that we've, been painting on over the years that buoys us so that we can do those hard things together.
Yeah, no, I love that image. Just painting on more layers and more layers of love, more connection, like in all those moments. It's almost like celebrating them in those lighter moments when you can, and noticing that's the other piece, right? Noticing that even in those harder times, that there are those other moments, right? I know when sometimes when we would go to like family things, that felt maybe more like an obligation or whatever, but we would approach them with love and with fun and with joy and bring the bubbles. So that, when you're at the hall and, everybody has to sit properly at their table, it's okay. We can all go out, by where the washrooms are and play around for a bit, and connect and have fun. Like just, you can make just about anything, when you bring these little moments to them. Totally. And they have meaning, right? And they have more love, and you understand the whole thing better when you have those little moments with each other, right? They're just so meaningful. Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. Okay, so what I would love to know, what is it that you guys are loving about your unschooling lives right now? I just thought it'd be fun to get a little snapshot.
I love teenagers.
Right?
For so many reasons. I love that, like it's that doorstep between children and adulthood. And what I notice about, this playful and joyful way we've been together is my kids still play. And so to see them playing and then turning around and doing like the serious thing that needs to happen. Mitchell tried out recently for a hockey high level stress situation. Yeah. And in between, he was sitting there with a couple of the younger kids at the rink playing on his phone and showing them new games. And so I love that juxtaposition, right? And how they're just flowing between those two worlds, and they're coming up against, and they're sort of churning through those hard bits. And then they're turning around and they're like, let's go jump in the pool. Like just that zest for life. That fuels me right now. I love it so much.
Right? I love that. That's because I think part of it is they haven't felt judged.
Yes.
So they can easily shift and understand the joy in all those moments. You can want the things that you're striving for and putting yourself in challenging positions, and it's okay to play as well. There's no judgment on you, somebody watching you and saying, oh, well, you don't do that anymore because you're this, right?
Exactly. That is what I love the most right now.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that little piece. And it does remind me often, things with my kids as well. Michael, he's been working really hard the last couple of weeks. And now, like I mentioned before, he's driven down to Ohio for a weekend at a parkour gym. They're like sleeping there, eating there, everything, and just playing around with a bunch of other kids and adults who appreciate that side of it, right? So it is so fun to see them, the way they can blend in, those responsibilities that they choose to take on, as well as all the fun stuff. Like, it's so cool to see that you can just be yourself and be all the things, not, I have to be an adult now, right?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me today, Shannon. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was good. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it was lots of fun. So before we go, where can people find you and your book online?
Well, my book will be available through Amazon. Everywhere. And outside of the book, I have space, justbreakingdaylight.org, both on across all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and I'll be putting up links, and we'll be having some fun with that as it all comes together.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. And I will put links to everything in the show notes for people who are interested in checking it out. So thanks again, Shannon. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Thanks.